But my beats, they are hard.
Hello and welcome to the BCSN Sports Wrap. It's Brian Fulford here, joined by my partner, my co-host, AD Drew, and we are getting ready to head into week number 8 of the Black College football season. AD, I can't even believe that we are just a little over halfway through. We are on the downside of the mountain heading towards championship weeks. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fine, and I don't know whether to be excited or disappointed when you say we're on the downside of football because, as soon as football gets done and we get into championship season, it's time to pull out the hoodies and the coats, brother, and I'm not ready for that.
Yeah, no, I you know what, I thought you were going to say it's getting close to basketball season is what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, well, that's my specialty. I love basketball, round ball. I love to watch it. I love to coach it. I used to love to play it till the D said, you can't play anymore. But even still, basketball versus football. Basketball's only gonna get a good basketball game's gonna get you 20,000. A bad football game will still get you 20,000, Brian, in the stadium.
I'm just thankful you didn't go and go into some sort of song and say basketball is my favorite sport. I love the way that I thought. You know what I'm saying? I'm very thankful you didn't do what I just did. So we want to remind you to. If you are just new to our show, just catching the show for the first time, take a look at us on Twitter and Instagram with the username at MyBCSN1, the number 1. Find us on Facebook, either at the Black College Sports Network page, or you can find our BCSN Sports Wrap page as well. And as always, Drew, you can find Drew. Where can they find you at on Twitter, AD?
BCSN Drew. That's BCSN DREW.
And you can find me at DRB365. So we've got a packed show for you, getting ready to head into week number 8, and let's jump right into it. No further delay, AD. And we mentioned. I mentioned our top 5 D1 and under D1 in the midweek report, but we'll go ahead and start with that just in case anyone did not catch that. And so let's start with our top 5 under D1, and we will start. I'll go from 5 to number 1, and actually there were, and you can correct me or confirm this, as I had previously said, I did not think there were any changes in our poll from this week to last week. And so
I know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. You what?
I was going to say, I know the D2 poll did not change.
Right. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, and I think on the D1 poll, we may have just had a couple of, I think 4 and 5 swap places.
Yeah, I think more than 4 and 5 swap places. There was definitely some reshuffling. But anyway, let's get to the top 5. So the top 5, I'll count them down from 5 to 1. Number 5, West Virginia State, the Yellow Jackets of the Mountain East Conference, with a record of 5-1 and 5-0 in their conference. And a little bit later in the show, you will get a chance to hear AD's interview with head coach John Pennington in his third season there at West Virginia State, has them off to one of their best records in his 3 seasons heading the program. Number 4, Langston University, with a record of 4-1, 3-0 in conference. They've got a big conference showdown coming up this weekend against, I believe, 18th ranked Ottawa, Arizona. So we'll talk a little bit about that game coming up. Number 3, Miles College, the Golden Bears, sitting at 5-1 in the SIAC. We will also be talking about their upcoming game against Edward Waters College. Number 2, Virginia Union. Virginia Union, the Panthers are actually hosting homecoming this weekend against Shawan in Richmond, Virginia, and we got some news that just came out today regarding Shawan. We'll get to that news just shortly. And number 1, with a record of 6-0 in the CIAA, Bowie State, the Bulldogs at 6-0. And, you know, AD, Bowie State is one of 16 Division II teams that are unbeaten. Bowie's ranked nationally. They're ranked 16th, I think 2 spots up from this week. And, you know, interesting, and we'll get to this in a moment, there's some interesting discrepancies or just some differences between the actual poll that Bowie State is a part of and even our poll and what we think of these teams in comparison to what the computer ratings think of these teams. But what's your thought on just the fact that our poll didn't really shuffle? Did it surprise you? Did you think somebody should have moved up? How did you you gave your vote on air in our wrap-up show from week 7, but just one last time, what are your thoughts on the final poll for week 8?
Well, the one thing about the poll, Brian, the D2 NAIA poll was a lot harder to complete, in my opinion, than the FCS poll. You know, you mentioned those 5 teams that we had in the poll. There are a few good teams that were left out and have been left out for 2-3 consecutive weeks. Teams that come to mind, such as Virginia State University, who is on the outside looking in at our poll, Fayetteville State University, who's on the outside looking in at our poll. So those are 2 teams in particular that I think of off the top of my head, and Albany State, excuse me, the third team that are on the outside looking in, but the teams ahead of them in our poll are playing well and not allowing us to, not giving us an excuse to even consider these 3 teams that are on the outside looking in. You know, I guess the good thing for the CIAA teams, that business is going to take care of itself over the next 3 to 4 weeks, as those top teams have to still play each other. And it's going to get started this particular weekend with Bowie State and Virginia State facing each other. So one of those teams is going to be shuffled around in our poll, definitely, and it may allow a Albany State or somebody else to sneak into the poll. West Virginia State University has played a lot of tough games thus far and still has a tough schedule remaining. You know, they could possibly lose. Miles University, they still have their rival game against Tuskegee sitting out there. So who knows what's going to happen with that particular one. You know, Langston has not lost a conference game in, how they say, a month of Sundays, Brian, but since 2017. So another team that you need to pay attention to see what they're going to do. The Division I side, it's pretty much taking care of itself. You know, 1 loss or 2 losses by these teams that we have in our top 5, and it goes from the crowded version like we have on the D2 side to we've got to stretch to put another team in there to get 5 teams on the Division I side. I think a lot of the polls versus the computers, a lot of it's based on tradition, Brian. You know, Bowie State is 6-0 this season. I asked the question, who has Bowie beat? West Virginia State is number 5 in our polls. They are the top-rated HBCU in Division II on our Versus Simulator, but they're not getting respect from the national posters, and they play in one of the tougher conferences in Division II football. So why is West Virginia State not getting the respect from the humans? Tradition. 2 6-5 seasons. They've had under 500 record for 7 of the last 10 years. They don't have that tradition that you see. Teams like a Tuskegee get the benefit of the doubt because they have the tradition, and we all know where Tuskegee started at in most people's polls, Brian. So that's more than my 2 cents on that. I'll turn it over to you to add your 2 cents to it.
Yeah, no, great points. I want to add, since you brought up the versus computer ratings, this is from our friends at computerratings.com, and that's spelled COMPUGHTER ratings.com. So among Division II schools, their top 5, now they have a separate rankings for NAIA and Division II. So in NAIA, they actually have Langston ranked 23rd, and they have Ottawa, Arizona, who they're playing ranked 21st, which is slightly different than what the coaches in NAIA have. Langston is ranked 16th in the NAIA coaches poll. Ottawa University of Arizona is ranked 18th. But here's what's interesting for the computers, and this is why I don't know if people look at computers, but it's interesting how the computers value a team without sort of that bias, I think, that might exist already. Well, West Virginia State comes in as the highest rated HBCU, but they are rated 50th overall in Division II. Bowie State is second with a rating of 57. Virginia Union is third with a rating of 58. Albany State is 4th with a rating of 61, and Miles College is 5th with a rating of 64. So essentially, you know, you have West Virginia, Bowie, Virginia Union, Albany State, and Miles, and those are in the 50th to the 64 ratings nationally from the versus poll. So the computer obviously sees these teams different, and I think the computer looks at the conference strength, and historically the HBCU teams have not fared very well on the conference level. Let's move over to the top 5 Division I schools. Our ranking here starts at number 5, South Carolina State. The Bulldogs still stay in the poll. I think they moved from 3 down to 5. Number 4, Alcorn State, the Braves. They actually won last week, but they dropped in our poll. That was a little surprising to me personally. I think Alcorn State was maybe 3rd in the polls. Then we had Florida A&M. Now, they moved up from 5, I believe, up to number 3, of course, after the win over South Carolina State. The Rattlers with the longest winning streak in the FCS HBCUs, among the HBCU FCS teams. Then you had Bethune-Cookman, ranked number 2 in our poll, and then North Carolina A&T ranked number 1, as they've been pretty much in our poll and everybody else's poll, and so now the difference between our poll and the computer ratings, AD, the versus computer ratings have FAMU rated 9th. They have North Carolina A&T ranked 13th. That's pretty amazing considering that in the Division II coaches poll, North Carolina A&T is 11th. They moved up 3 spots, and didn't even play last week. They went from 14th to 11th and didn't even play last week. That's pretty amazing. And Florida A&M is not even in the top 25 in the Division II poll or FCS coaches polls. Okay, I think that poll is.
But I would say, but FAMU did receive votes.
Yeah, but hell, that Okay, I get it, but it's crazy. It's just the fact that they didn't even get any consideration. But anyway, Alcorn State comes in ranked 31st. They are the number 3 HBCU team in the Versus Computer poll. Bethune-Cookman, 41st, and South Carolina State, 42nd. So you essentially have a top 5 that looks like FAMU, A&T, Alcorn State, Bethune-Cookman, South Carolina State, 4 MEAC schools, 1 SWAC school. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? And this is why I think I've been telling you guys, our pollsters, you guys keep rating Bethune-Cookman higher than FAMU. I keep telling you, and part of my reasoning why I keep thinking some of you who are voting are a little bit crazy is based off the computer ratings. So I will yield the floor to the gentleman from St. Louis via Tuskegee.
Well, I actually agree with you on that FAMU Bethune rating, your FAMU Bethune argument, and I'm not just saying that because I am a Florida A&M graduate, but I've seen both of them play, and I think FAM is playing a little bit better than Bethune. That's number one. Number two, I think some of it made, I don't know, with our posters, because I don't know what Bethune Wildcat that we have on our polling committee, but they're sure putting in enough votes for them. But I think some of that may